to order the January 13th, 2021 meeting of Palm Springs Planning Commission. Can I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Hirschbein?
Here.
Commissioner Lewin?
I'm here.
Commissioner Song?
Present.
Vice Chair Maruzzi?
Here.
Chair Wermuck?
Here.
Okay.
Can I have a report on the posting of the agenda, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, the agenda was posted on Thursday, January 7th, and our meeting has been noticed and published in accordance with state law.
Thank you. This is time for public comment.
And published in accordance with state law.
Thank you. This is time for public comment. This time's been set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on consent calendar and other agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. Please note that the Planning Commission is prohibited from taking action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes will be allowed for each speaker. Testimony for the public hearings may be offered at this time or at the time of the hearing. Just as a note, both of the items on our calendar today are public hearing items. Do we have anyone who is asked to speak during the public comment period?
No, Madam Chair, but we do have speakers who have requested to speak during each public hearing item. So those members of the public will be called during that time.
Thank you. I did bypass the acceptance of the agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
I make a motion to accept the agenda.
And there's a second from Commissioner Lewin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Our first public hearing is a request by Freehold Communities, LLC, for an extension of time for a previously approved preliminary plan development district and major architectural approval for the construction of a 153-unit condominium complex on an undeveloped 16.1 acre parcel in planning area 5 of phase 1 within the Mira development located at 801 Sunrise Parkway. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I was just waiting for our IT to put the display on. Okay, here we go. All right, once again, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. So if you recall, this project was approved by the Planning Commission on July 25th, 2018, and also by the City Council on September 13, 2018. The preliminary plan development district applications and major architectural approvals are only good for 2 years. They are valid for 2 years, so the 2 years is up. The applicant, Freehold Communities, did request for an extension of time, on time, consistent with the code requirements. So just a little background. First of all, let me just show. This is an area view of the site itself and some of the surrounding vicinity. So this next slide here is the overall site plan of. So this next slide here is the overall site plan of Mira, and in particular, the multi-family residential area. So this area that I'm highlighting here is the parcel in question that the extension of time is being sought for. The single-family residential component of it surrounding the parcel, and also to the north of that side is the Amenity Center. I'm not sure if any of the commissioners has been at the site lately. There are several construction activities going on at the site, especially the Amenity Center and then the single-family residential buildings that are underway by two separate builders, so to say. Again, this is the overall site plan of the Mira Lawn project. And again, this is the parcel that is in question. That's the planning area 5 that is designated for the 153-unit condominium complex. This is just the crop out of the parcel itself. So real quick, there has been no specific changes to the site. It remains the same as was approved in 2018. The number of units remains the same. The layout of the overall site plan remains exactly the same. And so it is still very consistent with not just the general plan, but with the plan development district. The floor plans, as you approved it in 2018, remains exactly the same. These are various type. There are 5 different floor plans that you approved. It remains so. And these are just some of the elevations of the units that you approved. So there are, again, 5 different plans, and they all remain the same. So in going back to the staff report, you notice that staff was able to make all the findings, all the 7 findings that is required, and most of them were based on the information supplied to the department by the applicant. Notably, if you look at finding number 7, where it asks for the extenuating circumstances that is not within the applicant's control, but not financial or number 7, where it asks for the extenuating circumstances that is not within the applicant's control, but not financial or inability and market conditions accepted that may have prevented the applicant from exercising the entitlement within the initial time period granted. So the applicant stated that what they do is try to market that particular parcel to a potential buyer, and that was on as early as 2018 and 2019. However, with the outbreak of COVID-19, that put a stall to the progress of being able to sell or to complete the agreement at the time. And we were also told by Freehold that as of today, plans are underway to market that parcel for a potential buyer that will prepare the final PDD plans that will be brought back to you for review and for your consideration. So those are all the findings. Again, there have been no changes to the project. It remains exactly the same, but relative to the overall site, there have been significant changes in that. Again, the Amenity Center is on the way, it's almost completed. There has been installation of landscape and especially the olive groves that you approved about 4 years ago. And there are 2 different builders that are currently building and selling single-family units in that area. And I might just add that very soon, perhaps in the next couple months, another buyer will be coming up with final development plans for your review and consideration. So in light of all of this, and given the fact that the findings for this extension have been made, staff will be recommending that the Planning Commission grant the extension of time for the applicant. The applicant did request for a 2-year grant the extension of time for the applicant. The applicant did request for a 2-year extension of time, but it's been the policy of the Planning Commission for a 1-year extension of time. Therefore, staff is also asking for a 1-year extension of time for this project. That will conclude my report. I'm available for any question, and the applicant is also available to answer any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? There being none, we'll open the public hearing. The applicant has 10 minutes. Members of the public will have 3 minutes, and the applicant will have 3 minutes for rebuttal. If the applicant would like to make a presentation.
Sure, and Edward did a fantastic. First of all, Brad Schuckart with Freehold Communities, and please, I often have trouble with my microphone, so if that happens, wave at me and I'll pull the plug on it. So I appreciate the audience with the Planning Commission and your continued support of the Mira Lawn project. I think Edward did a great job of summarizing kind of where we are with the project. It has taken longer to get going. The good news is we are now well underway. As Edward suggested, the Amenity Center is very near completion, and I would strongly encourage, to the extent that you have the time, to come out and see it. It's a fantastic facility, and we do have had much success on the single-family side. We've got 2 active builders, with a 3rd ready to break ground here in the next couple of months. They should be submitting plans to the city within a month or 2, and hope to pull permits shortly thereafter. With respect to the multifamily parcel, we knew that was going to trail the single family. That was always the part of the plan. But given that there were various commissions that we needed to get through and wanted to solicit the input from the city on the design side, but from the Architecture Committee, the Planning Commission, and the City Council at the time, we thought that would give a leg up to our prospective buyers, and hence seeking the approval back in 2018. We started the marketing process for the parcel in 2019, actually selected a buyer, and we're negotiating a contract. That bled into 2020, and unfortunately the world changed in early 2020, and that buyer fell out of the deal. So we have since remarketed the project. We have received a couple of different offers. We're evaluating those offers, and I just had a call today with our principal owners, and I think we've made a selection. So we will be negotiating a term sheet with a buyer here in the coming weeks, with the anticipation, as these things go, we will have the buyer will, if we can come to terms, enter into a 60-day feasibility period. After that, they will begin to process the final development plans. They'll work as quickly as they possibly can to get those in front of the Architecture Committee and then this body, and ultimately the City Council, to get a final PDD approved. Our goal is to break ground on this before the end of the year, if possible. And it's all subject to, obviously, the various commissions' review and input.
Thank you. David, are there members of the public who wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair. So if you give me just 1 minute here, I'll call the first person to speak, and we only have 1 speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we're having difficulties contacting the individual who wished to speak. If you'll give us just another minute, we're still trying to reach them.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Ackerman.
No, just a minute. Who's calling?
This is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Ackerman requested to speak during public testimony, and so we are calling him to give his testimony. He has up to 3 minutes.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let me get him.
Hi, Mr. Ackerman.
Yes, of course.
Yes, this is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. You are live with the Planning Commission, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide public testimony. You may begin.
Yes, my concern involves the new Mira project. I just want to make sure that, for the record, that the developer adheres to all of the requirements. I know this is about planning. I might be talking about engineering, but it's a forum. Feel free to stop me if you must. In the past, the developer has showed, the freehold properties has showed a complete indifference to mitigating any sand or dust or dirt that is built. These projects are probably going to commence at the most windy part of our season, and in the past their indifference to adhering to any civil way of dealing with it. They don't use green glue. They're just completely out of compliance. And in particular, back a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, when they installed an electrical vault, a couple of them, they allowed a lot of sand to fly, even though I requested over and over again, use some green glue. Their answer was they were out of green glue. I know it's trivial, but please, I don't want to go through that again when they're building these new projects, which will probably take place around the windy season of the year. I just ask that they adhere to compliance with the engineering guidelines set down in 2012, where they have to file adequately with the city for permission because of the property and its location, so that sand and dust and dirt is mitigated. I got over at least 1/8 of an inch of sand every day for 45 consecutive days, and I just want to be on record. That's the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Consecutive days, and I just want to be on record. That's the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
The applicant has, is that the only public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's the only one.
The applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal, and then please stay there for any questions from the commission.
Of course. I believe the commission understands that we are we are required to be compliant and file a SWIPS plan with the city, and we have oversight by governmental bodies with respect to dust control. It is the case that it's a very windy area, and I would argue that a goodly amount of the low sand actually comes from the wash that is upwind from us. But notwithstanding that, suffice it to say, we are fully compliant with our dust control measures, and will continue to use best practices to maintain the site during construction and beyond.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant while the public hearing is open? Commissioner Song?
Mr. Shakhar, good evening. The 1-year term, would it work better for you if it was 2 years for a 2-year extension?
Yes, I mean, that would be ideal, not because we intend to drag this out, but I know that, we've spent a fair bit of time on this, and my hope is, and the intent was, that the PDD would act as a guide for the final PDD, but the devil's always in the details. So a part of this extension would get us, towards the latter part of this year. It's possible that we would be in process and our builder would still be negotiating the particulars or, making revisions to the plan to conform with the requirements and guidelines of the city. And so my fear would be that, we would have to come back and do this again. A second year would prevent the need for that potentially. And again, my hope is that we've already have approved plans and building permits and we're moving forward. But nonetheless, it would be nice to have that cushion.
And second and last question is, there is definitely demand for condominium, multifamily density projects, and therefore you're moving forward with this. There is no chance that the probability that you're going to come back and redesign it as single family is very low.
That's an accurate statement. I never say never, but we have been fully compliant with the approved zoning, and that approval came back in 2004, I believe, with the exception being the tweaks we made in 2016 to some of the setbacks, the architectural standards, and obviously the open space use. But our intention being that the tweaks we made in 2016 to some of the setbacks, the architectural standards, and obviously the open space use. But our intention when we bought this back in 2016 was to use the existing entitlements rather than reopen anything and add units or anything of that nature.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There being none, the public hearing is closed. The matter is before the commission. Is there discussion or is there a motion? Commissioner Song.
I have a motion which is to approve with a 2-year extension.
I'll second that.
Matters before the commission. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Maruzzi?
Yeah, I'd just like a little bit of discussion. I thought that, as the staff mentioned, we've been trying to stick to a 1-year extension. Why would we make the change now for this particular applicant? So I'd like to hear from my colleagues why we would make an exception for this applicant when we really haven't for many others in the last year or two.
Commissioner Song?
There's 2 reasons. One is that it's really not a full year. It's September of 2021, so it's about 8 months now, or 8.5 months. And second is that construction, the deal making, the final PDD is almost project submittal, and it takes time for the design team to put the plans together. So rather than having him come back in August and asking for another extension, I believe that having the 2-year extension gives him the time and gives him the proper allowance for the applicant to come back with the precise developed design plan.
But isn't that always true with an applicant? That's why they're always asking for 2 years? And we don't agree to that because oftentimes in the past it's just been used as with no firm deadline, it's used as a way to continue to stretch these projects out.
But in this case, this applicant has shown tremendous changes on the
As a way to continue to stretch these projects out.
But in this case, this applicant has shown tremendous changes on the site, including the progress of construction.
The other reason is because this is a sale portion of the site. I'm going to support this. I would have made the motion had Commissioner Song and Hirschbein not made it, because they're involved in a sale and a negotiation for the purchase of the site, and then working through with the purchaser the final PDD, which may involve changes. It's more complex than I think they can do within an 8-month time period. And it's something I'd like to see done and completed, and I'd like to give them that option.
I'd like to hear from Commissioner Lewin and his opinion.
Madam Chair, I believe Commissioner Hirschbein was.
He has to speak next.
Well, I was just in response to Commissioner Marucci, a couple of reasons. One is, as Commissioner Song said, this applicant has demonstrated by deed his credibility when he says things. And that goes a long way for me to give him a little bit more leeway. The other thing is that if you go by his time frame, if there's a due diligence period of 2 months and they haven't even gotten to that point yet, that brings you to sometime in March or April before they execute a contract, and he's probably not going to start any drawings before that. And then there's a 3-step approval process. He has to get final PD, AAC, final PDD, Planning Commission, and final PDD Council, and then he can start his construction documents. I don't know when the clock stops ticking. I think he's entitled when he gets building permits, and we all know on a project this size, a building permit can take quite a long time. So and the other reason is there's certain projects where we said no 1 year, and they're usually more public spaces. They're usually spaces that there's some risk to the city in it not being completed. And being that this is part of a very large development that's mainly not developed at this point, I don't see that risk. If this doesn't get developed for a while, I don't see a big risk to the city in this not getting developed for a while. I'm not saying that will happen, but in the event that this does drag on, this particular site does not trouble me as much as, for instance, a site adjacent to the Regal Theater. And with that guy, there was just no credibility. With this, there just seems to be a boatload of credibility, and I'm willing to take a risk on that.
Any other comments? There being Commissioner Lewin?
Just, out of the spirit of camaraderie with Commissioner Marucci, I heard your question. I think that the other commissioners are making very good points. The developer has invested heavily in the project. They're moving things along. It is interior. And I also think that COVID slows things down. And I think that this is a time to be a little more lenient, especially on someone who's shown their dedication so far. So I will be supporting the motion as it stands. And I appreciate Commissioner Marucci asking us for intellectual honesty, or consistency, rather. Thank you.
Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Song,
Yes.
Commissioner Hirschbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewin,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Chair Marucci, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Chair Wermug.
Yes. one last question of the applicant. If we come out to see your Amenity Center, can we get through the gatehouse? Do we just tell them we're commission?
I'll make sure you're all on the list. But notwithstanding the fact that the trails are open to the public during daylight hours, but I'm sure you'd rather drive in, so I will make it a point to make sure that all of the commissioners are on the list.
Yeah, I actually tried to get into the gate recently, and I was told I couldn't, and I had to make a special appointment.
Sorry. Yes, given COVID, we do have some limitations and restrictions if you're looking to visit any one of the buildings or the builders for that matter. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much for your time.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is West Hollywood Housing Corporation for a planned development district application to construct a 71-unit multifamily residential development on a 1.75 acre site located at the southwest corner of West Stevens Road and North Palm Canyon Drive, C1 and R2 zones. Staff report, and then we'll do a report from the subcommittee that worked on this.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners. The request before you is a new residential development, an affordable senior living project with 71 units on the 1.76 acres located at Stevens and North Palm Canyon. The application is being proposed for streamlined processing under SB 35 and does include a density bonus under the city's density bonus ordinance and the California Government Code. The project also involves the sale of city-owned property, and that does require that the Planning Commission make a finding of general plan consistency in the event that this project is approved and the project is sold to the developer. If we can just get the slides pulled up here, I'll begin the presentation. In the meantime, just so that the Commission, as you probably know, or you'll recall, on December 17th, we continued this matter to the hearing date this evening at the request of staff to allow additional outreach for the project. And we also had, as you heard from Chair Wermuck, a subgroup working to give some guidance to the development team. And that subgroup consisted of Chair Wermuck, Commissioner Hirschbein, Mayor Holstage, Councilman Coors, and so that was the subgroup that met on December 30th to provide some guidance and direction to the applicant based on comments that we had received from the public. Also, since your last meeting on December 17th, on January 7th, we held a neighborhood meeting, I should say the developer held a neighborhood meeting that was a time where the applicant introduced the project to the neighbors, surrounding neighbors. It was well attended. They did also show the proposed site plan as well as the alternative plan. So we issued a new report, and that was published for your review on this past Thursday, and so that was part of your packet, and that is different from the report you received on December 17th. So if you give you just a moment here, we'll get the PowerPoint presentation brought up. Okay. So as I said, this project is located at the southwest corner of North Palm Canyon Drive and Stevens Road. It is an undeveloped site. There currently is an abandoned cistern that was previously used by the city. And these properties currently, one of them is owned by the city of Palm Springs. The other is owned by the successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the city of Palm Springs. So they are publicly owned properties. The proposed project is a two-story development. This is a rendering that you see, or that you would see if it were developed as proposed, with 2 stories, shed roofs, and as you can see, the various details on the project from Palm Canyon and Stevens. The applicant has provided some additional renderings to give you a sense of how the project would fit within the fabric of the area during the daytime as well as at the evening hours. And the proposed site plan, as you can see here on the screen, shows the proposed development, the building fronting Palm Canyon and extending towards the rear where it abuts Camino Norte. The parking is proposed along the westerly portion of the site. There are a total of 71 proposed parking spaces in that parking area. You can see here the kind of the layout of the first floor of the project, with the majority or all of the units being one-bedroom units on the ground floor as well as the second floor. And at the corner of Palm Canyon and Stevens, you have the communal spaces, which consist of an office or office spaces, a lobby space, various back of house functions. There's some the laundry area in this area, and then at the corner they're proposing a communal kitchen area, an activity space. They also have a proposed health club or gymnasium, a small health club in this area. The plan here is the second floor, and it shows all of the various one-bedroom units throughout the second floor, as well as the proposed overhangs that extend to the east over the proposed paseo along Palm Canyon, and then over the easterly parking spaces in the parking lot on the south side, or the west side, or the bottom of this image. And this image here shows the various roof planes, as well as the overhangs that I was mentioning a moment ago. This is just a partial elevation of the project along East Palm Canyon to give you a sense of the heights proposed along Palm Canyon. The site is elevated above the street, so you can see here the various heights for the proposed structure, ranging from probably 23 feet to 32.5 feet. And those are, obviously due to the varying roof heights. So although the project is not a large mass along the street, it does have varying roofs that that provide additional view corridors where there is a height of 23 feet. And this is the full elevation that you would see along Palm Canyon Drive. And so, as I mentioned, the right side of this image shows the various communal spaces at the ground floor. The upper floors are all of the proposed units. And then on the the left side of this image is where additional units are proposed, set back from the street, where you have a paseo, a shaded paseo space. On the westerly side of the project, they are proposing, again, it's a two-story structure. So this is the image the full elevation along the west side of the project as it extends from Stevens on the left to Camino Norte on the right. And again, just the south elevation of the project, showing the various roof planes and interior spaces between the courtyard areas, within the building areas. There's a variety of color and materials that you can see here on the screen being proposed. They are neutral earth tone colors, and they are proposing various textures as well. As you can see on the bottom, at the bottom of the image here in the middle is the textured wall that would be integrated at various locations on the building and provides some additional texture and composition to the building. In terms of the projects, in terms of staff's review of the project, the site is zoned C1 along the easterly portion of the southerly property and zoned R2 on the westerly portion of that property. The property on the corner of Stevens Road and Palm Canyon is zoned C1. And the general plan designation is mixed use multi-use. So under this designation, it allows for a density of up to 15 dwelling units per acre. However, a total of 30 dwelling units per acre is permitted if approved under a planned development district, and that is the request that is being considered today. Under the city's density bonus ordinance, there is an additional density that is permitted above the permitted 30 dwelling unit per acre formula, and so that the project is compliant with the 30 dwelling units per acre as well as the 35% increase that is permitted by the density bonus ordinance. In terms of the development standards for the zone, as I mentioned, this project is split zoned along the front half and with C1 and R2 at the rear. The C1 zone permits 30 feet maximum height, 24 feet maximum in the R2 zone. Additionally, in our density bonus ordinance, the city is required to permit 11 additional feet above these heights. The project is in compliance with the this additional allowance under the density bonus ordinance with the ranging height of 23 to 33 feet approximately for its height. It does comply with the setback requirements for each respective zone, 5 feet along Palm Canyon and Stevens, 10 to 24 feet on interior sides, and then 25 feet along Camino Norte. As part of the Plan Development District Ordinance, we are required to look at what public benefits are being provided. And as we've noted here in your staff report, the project being a new affordable housing project with a total of 71 units for affordable housing, obviously is a public benefit to the community. It also will be restricted to affordable levels for at least 55 years. So that those two items are specifically called out in the Plan Development District Ordinance as being items that should be considered public benefits. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there was a subgroup that worked that worked with the developer, consisting of Mayor Holstage, Councilmember Kors, Chair Wermuck, and Commissioner Hirschbein, and they met on December 30th with the applicant and provided some recommendations for holding another neighborhood meeting based on the amount of feedback that the city was getting. Also, as it relates to providing perhaps an alternative access point on the project due to the comments that we were receiving, as well as the initial comment about, or a comment that was about providing commercial space at the corner, as that was something that we had thought was going to be part of the project, so that was something that we had asked or requested that they look into as a part of an optional enhancement to the project. And so based on that feedback, the applicant had provided an alternative site plan, which you see here on the screen. And what this really shows here is that there's an additional access point that could be provided to Palm Canyon in the event that there was no access to Camino Norte. And so as you can see here, that this would be what that would look like with the project. Staff has listed a number of reasons why we are not in support of this alternative site plan. Namely, the amount of traffic generated by the project doesn't warrant a third access point. And we've provided, or we have analysis in your report as it relates to the traffic impacts, and I'll speak about those in just a moment. But generally, we just did not feel that this was a safe access point for the project. There is an existing bus stop that is a location where there's a transfer station for Sunline, and those buses wait at that location for longer periods of time than normal bus stops locations throughout the city. So that being a concern, because it does create site visibility issues for vehicles exiting this point and not being able to see oncoming traffic going southbound on Palm Canyon. That was one concern that we had initially. Another, there's a number of other concerns that we list in your report as it relates to generally, traffic or urban planning and urban experience of a project, and limited vehicular access to major thoroughfares and creating main access points off of adjacent streets that connect to a major thoroughfare. So as I said, staff has listed a number of reasons why we are not in support of this alternate proposal. So speaking to traffic and site access, this project, as proposed, is anticipated to have 263 total trips per day, with peak hours in the morning being 14 at the highest level, and the evening 18 peak hours would be the most that would occur during the busiest times of the day. In the event that the project did include the flexible use space, the total anticipated project trips would be 346 trips for the project, and that's, as I mentioned, if the Planning Commission and Council directed the corner space on Palm Canyon and Stevens be a flexible use public space, such as a restaurant, a cafe, a gift shop, or any other type of retail that's permitted in the underlying C1 zone. So in the event, and those numbers, the 346 total trips per day is what we would say is the highest or most intense potential for that space if it were a cafe. And just so for a comparison, for the benefit of the commission and the public, there's a total of 583 total trips per day for the Draftsman restaurant, and that's based on the International Transportation Engineers Manual. And the Arrive Hotel has about 1,722 trips per day. So the anticipated project trips for this development are far below these numbers. So it really gives you a sense of what a project like this would generate versus another commercial use at this property. So we did want to just provide that to you as well. As I mentioned, we do have additional analysis in your project report about the site layout in the event that the commission and council choose to restrict vehicular access to Camino Norte. And then we've also had some discussion, or provide some discussion in your report about Stevens Road and the potential for a turn lane being necessary at that location in the event that down the line it is determined by the city engineer that a turn lane be provided to accommodate all vehicular access from the Stevens Road access point. So staff's recommendation tonight is that you are recommending City Council approve the project, and that would be the original proposed site plan, not the proposed alternative plan with access from Palm Canyon, and restrict vehicular access on Camino Norte for emergency vehicles only. We also ask that the Planning Commission consider requiring or imposing a requirement that there be an additional commercial or retail component to the project at the corner of Stevens and Palm Canyon. And so those are staff's recommendations for the project. You have received a number of public comment letters for this project, and staff forwarded you some additional comments this afternoon from other members of the public who have submitted public comments, written public comments to you. We do have a number of members who have requested to speak on this item. So, Madam Chair, once we open the public hearing and the applicant has their presentation, we'll open it up for other members of the public to provide testimony. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Before we go into staff questions, I wanted to just go into the deliberations of the subcommittee and what we came up with. We had asked, or I had asked for an alternate plan to respond to the public's request to see if access could come off of Palm Canyon. In looking at the plan, the recommendation of both staff and the project architect was that we not use that. And the subcommittee agreed with that. As an alternate, we proposed limiting the access to the project from Stevens with the gate at Via Norte being restricted just to fire access with an Opticam strobe system so that the fire department could get in and out of it. The main reason, the traffic count in the project, although it was listed at 260 trips per day, the estimation is that it will be half of that because of the use of the project. So that the estimated trips in and out will be very low. They should not be a burden on Stevens Road. The other issue that was raised at our study session was parking. The project will be meeting the parking requirements that the city has. It will be overparked by 50% or 100% for the use that we're anticipating. The applicant took a portion of the project where they would maintain the 71 parking spaces they proposed. I believe it was 12 spaces toward the rear that will have a different hardscape treatment, will be used as a public area, a recreation area, but could be converted into parking if a parking demand actually developed at the property. So they'd both meet, and I've asked staff to prepare a condition that would mirror that requirement. We did look at some public amenities in the front of the project, and added to the public benefits was a sort of sitting area for the public where there would be an easement for public use and an area where people could sit with their dogs, possibly a dog drinking fountain. And I've asked staff to prepare a condition in that regard. The other thing is the request for the public space. The applicant's going for financing. At this point in time, they can't finance a commercial component with affordable housing funds. And therefore, we would, and with the council, we don't propose requiring a commercial component, but allow flexibility with a requirement that would allow them to have a commercial component should that become viable in the future and they can finance that. And again, staff was asked to prepare a condition. I don't think they're in our initial reports, but we should be getting those from staff. So those were the issues that came up around the project. Those were the resolutions we looked at in the subcommittee, and those were the resolutions that were presented to the public at the public meeting that they held after our meeting. Commissioner Hirschbein, does that summarize it, and was there anything else you would add?
No, that does a summary, a good summary of it. I think from my perspective, they responded to community concerns about access on Camino Norte, and the parking, I think, was addressed in the staff report. The number, and also the applicants have many senior affordable housing projects in Southern California, and their experience suggests that the parking is not going to be an issue. A lot of their residents of these projects don't have cars. Many of them do not, and the parking spaces that they are required to provide in these other projects have gone unused. So I think turning some of them into this decorative kind of zone that can be used, by the residents rather than parking is a good solution. And like Kathy said, in the event that it's needed, they can convert to parking. But they haven't seen the need for that. And as far as the commercial space, it was determined that it would be really difficult for them to finance that through these standard ways that affordable housing gets financed. And I think requiring that would add a burden to the project that might prohibit it from being built.
So other questions for staff or for the subcommittee from the members of, there were a few questions that Commissioner Song had asked that were architectural in nature. One was fire access with the overhang on the back entrance, and what they have was cleared by the fire department. You may have other questions of the applicant later, but that's one that was resolved. Does anybody have questions of either staff or the subcommittee? There being none, let's open the public hearing. The applicant has 10 minutes to present their project. And then members of the public will have 3 minutes, and you'll have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Slansky. Good evening, Palm Springs commissioners, city staff, community members. My name is Jesse Slansky. I'm the president and CEO of West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. We are thrilled to be here tonight to present Agave at Palm Canyon. This is a 100% affordable rental apartment community exclusively for seniors age 62 and up. Many of you already know us. This evening, I'm going to briefly reintroduce ourselves. Matt Mason, our Director of Real Estate Development, will reintroduce the project. And Will Carson, our architect from 64 North, will go into a little more detail on the design. And then we'll take some questions. I just want to start by saying thank you to staff. This is a city-owned property, as you know. We view ourselves as partners, helping to execute the city's vision, and staff's help has been invaluable. We are a community-based nonprofit organization. We've been creating high-quality affordable housing for 34 years. Our mission is building homes and providing services that move community members from insecurity to stability. We got our start in West Hollywood building affordable homes for seniors and people with special needs. We built one of the first properties on the West Coast for people living with HIV/AIDS that we still own and operate today. Our target populations have expanded to include working families, people with physical disabilities, chronic health conditions, mental illness, the formerly homeless, transition-age youth, and now an emerging population of transgender. We focus on affluent communities with vocal and active constituencies. Today, we house over 950 residents in 597 units in 18 buildings in 3 cities. We have an additional 7 projects in development. Our housing is designed for independent living. However, housing alone is not always enough. Sometimes vulnerable individuals need a little help to live on their own. What sets us apart is our resident services department. We have a team of 10 full-time professionals who provide supportive services to our residents. Additionally, we have community collaborators, such as our partner Desert AIDS Project, who help provide additional support. This project, Agave at Palm Canyon, will have 1 full-time resident services coordinator staffed by us, 1 part-time support case manager staffed by Desert AIDS Project, and 1 full-time case manager staffed by Riverside University Health System. So now I'll turn things over to Matt.
Good evening. I'm Matt Mason, the Director of Real Estate Development for West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. I just want to say that our buildings are not your typical affordable housing buildings. We put a lot of effort into making sure that we achieve a high level of design. As Jesse mentioned, we build in a number of affluent communities, and we use them to projects achieve a high level of design and are well accepted.
Matt, we're losing a little of your audio.
I'm sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So our buildings are generally we generally seek LEED Gold, and Agave at Palm Canyon will also aim for LEED Gold certification. We are a long-term owner and operator. We don't build and sell. We build and invest in communities. All of our projects are affordable and include housing covenants that keep them affordable for a minimum of 55 years. Here is an overview of the population. So as Jesse mentioned, all of the units will be reserved for seniors, for adults aged 62 and older. So everyone who lives here, so for the building managers, will be a senior, age 62 and older. All of the units are 1 bedrooms, and we expect that based on our past senior buildings, a vast majority, about 80 to 85% of those units will be occupied by 1 senior, low-income senior resident. So of the 71 units, 44 will be reserved for low-income seniors making between 20 and 80% of the area median income, which is about $10,000 to $40,000 annual income in Riverside County. 25 units will be reserved as permanent supportive housing for the formerly homeless. And then 2 units will be set aside as building manager units for full-time on-site building managers, a day manager and a night manager. As Jesse mentioned, we will also provide 3 full-time or mostly full-time service providers, the WHCHC and Desert AIDS Project service providers will provide services for all of the units, and the case manager from Riverside University Health System will provide services specific to 25 permanent housing units, just to provide that extra level of services that may be required for adults transitioning to housing. Agave at Palm Canyon will be an amenity-rich environment. There will be a community room with a demonstration kitchen, computer room, lending library, a fitness room, and a laundry room. Offices and resident amenities will be located along Palm Canyon Drive and will be designed to activate Palm Canyon Drive and to allow passive interaction between residents and activity along the street. Security for residents will be provided through the 2 building managers. The building manager office will be located next to the door, so we will have eyes directly on the street and on the front door of our building, both in the daytime and the nighttime. The building will also feature a security camera system, security cameras for the campus, and an off-site security company monitoring those security camera footages. To date, our community engagement team has conducted and participated in more than 25 public and small group meetings, which has included input from the surrounding neighborhood, including our most direct neighbors in the condominium complex called Ponte de Las Palmas, directly adjacent to the project, which has endorsed the project. So what's changed since last time? I think Commissioner Womack has summarized this already fairly comprehensively. We've added a flexible use space on the corner, 600 square feet of space that could be used in the future if funding and the market is amenable to adding a commercial component, perhaps a small neighborhood market. Or for now, we would like to reserve the space as a potentially publicly facing flexible space that could be used in a way that is related to the housing above. But we have that space set aside at this point. In addition, there is the amenities that have been added to the public paseo in the front, including the public pit stop, and we've closed the entrance to Camino Norte to public access and reserving only for emergency access, which will speak to in greater detail.
So, as you know, Palm Springs has such an important and exceptional architectural heritage, and our goal is to create a project that fulfills this void in your city fabric and is a worthy extension to this legacy that you all can be proud of, as can we. Next slide. Seen along Palm Canyon, the design has developed with active programs arrayed along the street to activate the frontage, sheltered by this broad overhanging canopy with shade for public gatherings, floor-to-ceiling glazing connecting inside and out, and broad overhanging roofs that are consistent with the modernist design language of much of Palm Springs. Next slide. The project's 71 units are kept to just 2 stories. The project's plate height is just up at 22 feet. And when someone walks around on the second floor, their eye line is approximately 17 feet above grade. So nobody's looking out from 30 feet above grade. Next slide. The material palette, as David noted, is contemporary and warm, desert hued, includes cedar, custom masonry, aluminum, and plaster. Next slide. On the site plan, as noted by others, the parking is located on the western side of the project. We're set back 80 feet or 75 feet from our neighbors at Pompey Las Palmas. They also have a privacy wall and planted hedge, ensuring there are no view lines from the units on this project to their units. And we've met with them and they're supportive of the project. We've also made a number of changes in response to community feedback, which have also been covered by others, including the paseo, the puppy pit stop, and the flexible use space. We've also added a potential monument sign at the corner. And as noted, we've heard a number of community concerns regarding traffic, some of which have slightly erroneous interpretations of the project's traffic study, which we can address. We heard the concerns about traffic onto Camino Norte and to close that entry with the gate. We evaluated a secondary entrance onto Palm Canyon, but that wasn't recommended. And as noted, we expect about 80 people living on site with about 40 cars. So that's about 130 trips a day, or about 7 in and out an hour, which is about a quarter of what the Draftsman has, and I guess about a tenth of what Orion has. And we heard of the concerns about overparking and have designed this kind of flexible plaza space in the kind of lower right of the project Matt's pointing at, which can be used as an amenity, but also used for overflow parking. So we're confident there'll be zero overflow parking in the community. Next slide. The landscape is designed as an equal partner to the architecture and is drought tolerant to complement the sustainable LEED Gold building.
Madam Chair, we're past our 10-minute mark.
All right, I'm almost done.
If you can go a little quickly and wrap up.
Great, I have 2 sentences. On the site plan, you can see the numerous gardens, which are integrated to surround the building, creating connections between exterior spaces and individual units. Next slide. And the planting palette for the project is lush with expressive form and color, including palms, palo verdes, cacti, agave, and additional decorative plantings. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. We'll do questions later. The public hearing is open. David, can you call the people who've asked to speak? And can you let us know how many people have asked to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a total of 5 speakers.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Silver?
Yes, it's Dr. Silver.
Hi,
Hello.
Dr. Silver. This is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. You're live with the Planning Commission, and you have 3 minutes to provide public testimony on the Agave project.
Thank you very much, and I'm getting overflow from my computer or something, so I'm sorry about that. I have. Thank you very much, and I'm getting overflow from my computer or something. You're getting, yeah. I'm not so.
Can you turn down the volume on your computer?
Yeah, let me do that. Sorry about that. Let me see here. Turn it off. Mute it. Is that better?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I live on in Las Fiesta Villas on Camino Norte, and and along with a number of other people who have lived there for several years, have some concerns. First of all, the agave development is beautiful. The people who are making it are to be congratulated on that structure, and I'm sure the Planning Commission has done a great deal of work in trying to accommodate the community, but these are the concerns that I still have. The emergency gate on Camino Norte is a terrific idea, but there's a pedestrian gate there as well. There's no problem with pedestrians going in there. The concern that I have as a person who walks that area all the time with our dogs is that visitors to this community, particularly those coming from the south, will find it easier to turn left on Vereda Norte and then right on Camino Norte than to go all the way up to West Stevens because of the heavy traffic moving south on North Palm Canyon. And I as well as others, are concerned there's no sidewalk along the property that's south of this development between Vereda Norte and the development. And we're concerned that cars will park there, narrowing that road, and that makes it and since there's no sidewalk, when we walk dogs and we walk by there, you have to walk on a narrow road and under low light conditions. I think it's a safety hazard, and that's my principal point. It's a safety hazard there, and I think that for that reason, that pedestrian entrance should not be there until such improvement occurs that you can walk a sidewalk all the way up from Vereda Norte up to Camino Norte. A secondary concern, which we'll only have to see as time develops, is if enough people, service people, or visitors to the project choose to park in that area or further, I guess, north along Camino Norte, it takes away parking spaces on the street for our service people and for our guests. And the final thing that I would say is that based on living in that area for a long time, it's not easy to turn, as you folks know, turn left onto West Stevens from North Palm Canyon. And the reason is because cars pile up at Vista Chino and Palm Canyon. They travel south at 40 miles an hour. There isn't a lot of distance to West Stevens. And so if you're coming from the south towards that area, it's a lot easier to turn left on Vereda Norte, right on Camino Norte, go on Cahuilla, and then West Stevens. And those are the concerns that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll disconnect.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Davey?
Yes, hi.
Hi, this is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. You are live with the commission. If you could turn down the volume on the device you're watching the meeting, and you'll have 3 minutes to provide testimony. You may begin.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Dear members of the Planning Commission, I speak to you on behalf of myself and other concerned neighbors living near the project. After attending the recent developer meeting and reviewing the revised staff report, some issues remain. It is felt that the project will have a very large impact on our old Las Palmas neighborhood and infrastructure. If granted, the density bonus variance will add 18 additional units, bringing the total to 71, with up to three full-time residents allowable per unit. There will be anywhere from 71 to 213 persons living there. This does not include visiting staff, guests, and service workers. Also, the density variance allows for a height variance, adding an additional 11 feet to the structure. The traffic study assessment shows 263 daily trips, 346 daily trips if a restaurant is added, traveling to and from the development, thus creating considerable disruption to the safety and harmony of our community and historic neighborhood. The Camino Norte emergency access should remain in perpetuity an emergency vehicle access, and without the proposed staff report added condition of an allowance for future consideration. If approved, unfortunately, this allowance will give the city the right to potentially open the Camino Norte emergency access as a public access at a future date. We are also opposed to the Camino Norte pedestrian access as the impact it will have on our neighborhood. With only 71 dedicated parking spaces and an estimated of daily trips at 263 generated by this project, the access will be a conduit for spillover parking and considerable traffic generated within our historical Old Las Palmas neighborhood. I want to thank you on behalf of myself, Lauren DeVee, and my neighbors. Many of us are involved in this, and we thank you for your consideration of our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect.
Hello.
Hi, is...
David, this is Lauren.
Oh, sorry, Lauren.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.
Hello, this is Greg.
Greg Rodriguez, this is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. We're calling to allow you to provide your public testimony regarding the Agave project. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you so much. I wasn't going to talk about traffic, but it sounds like that's the issue, but I think it might be disguised in NIMBYism. So I'm Greg Rodriguez. I actually am a resident of Palm Springs. I actually live only about a half a mile away from the project. I also am the Government Affairs and Public Policy Advisor for Supervisor Manuel Perez for the Riverside County. And then I also participate in the Lift to Rise and the County Connect Capital campaign on affordable housing, which is looking to build 10,000 units of affordable housing over the next 10 years. So I'm calling in support of the Agave project. I want to address some of the concerns that came up in the community forum, and I don't know, they may still come up tonight. Permanent supportive housing units, which some people tend to think that we're pulling people immediately off the street and putting them into units. Is not the case. What permanent supportive housing units do is provide permanent housing for individuals that we have put through transitional programs, through shelter programs, have provided substance use treatment, as well as behavioral health treatment, and providing a permanent home. As one who deals with housing homelessness on a daily basis within the county, our need for senior housing is exponential, and especially in the city of Palm Springs. One of the other concerns that was brought up is about the proximity to grocery stores and amenities, and I will tell you that this project is closer than almost any other project we have in the county. We have numerous permanent supportive housing and Section 8 housing units dispersed throughout not only the city of Palm Springs, but the county that we are not worried about access to amenities to. One of the other issues that was brought up is about the location, and that's complete NIMBYism. And why does it have to be here? Why can't it be somewhere else? We need to be able to make sure that we are housing individuals throughout our city, throughout every district within the city, and throughout every location. We already have units that the county has had for years of not only Section 8 housing, but senior housing that are dispersed throughout communities in the county that abut poor communities, rich communities, and there has been no issues that we have dealt with on that. I just really want to emphasize that the Agave project and the developers have gone over and above what they really need to do in regards to the ability on SB 35 to actually not have to go through these processes, and their ability and willingness to engage community involvement. This is an incredible project. Not only the design, but the integrated services it's going to do with the partnership with Desert AIDS Project as well as Riverside County is really truly the example of where affordable housing developments need to go. And so I would strongly encourage the Planning Committee to recommend the City Council endorse this project. Thank you.
Steve Moses.
Hi, Mr. Moses. This is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. You are live with the Planning Commission, and you may provide your public testimony. You'll have 3 minutes regarding the Agave project.
Okay, it's starting now?
You may begin.
Okay, thank you. I had trouble getting you on my computer, and so I almost forgot that I was to do this. I want to be very supportive of the project. Many of you know I spent probably 30 years of my career in the government-assisted housing field, helping write the legislation that created HUD and being Housing Man of the Year, but that was 40 years ago. This is a well-designed, very well thought out project, and the developers of it, West Hollywood Community Housing, have a very fine reputation. I think we need it in the city. Those who worried about the traffic issue on Norte, I believe that's been resolved. I think the restaurant is not a good idea. There are too many restaurants nearby. I would do something else. But the overall aspect of the project I am supportive of, and I wish it luck. There's also been a kind of a NIMBY issue of whether it's the wrong neighborhood for that kind of a project. The fact is, these will be decent people with modest incomes who are paying by a lease, annual leases, and the location by the bus stop is about as good as you can possibly get for low-income seniors. So I am in favor of it. I urge your approval as we go forward. As I said, a little tweaking like things with the restaurant I think need to be rethought. Thank you. That's all the time I'll take.
Thank you. We'll disconnect.
David.
Hi, Ms. Pascal. This is the city.
Yes.
This is the City of Palm Springs Planning Commission. We're calling you regarding the Agave project and wanted to allow you to provide your public testimony to the Planning Commission. So you'll have 3 minutes to provide your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Nikki Pascal. I'm a neighbor at the adjacent Pompeii de las Palmas development to the immediate west of this proposed agave development. I am enthusiastically supportive of the proposal. I think it's very appropriate to the site. The need for this kind of housing is evident, particularly with research showing older adults with low incomes are among the highest risk of homelessness. That was even before the pandemic. And as the previous speaker mentioned, being alongside Palm Canyon, the public transit opportunities obviously make this a great place to site seniors. The design is very attractive. The lot we have there now is a complete eyesore, and it's clear the developer has taken great pains to deliver a project that is iconic in design, reflective of the Palm Springs architectural history, that's respective of our community next door that is, as you know, has historic recognition, and that is also very respectful of the mountain views and the adjacent neighborhood. Most importantly, I think the design appears very high-end, and while the people living in the development are intended to be of modest means, the structure is really one that I think someone of any income could be proud to call home, and that I would certainly be proud to be a neighbor to. And I really appreciate the thought that was put into delivering that kind of dignity for the future residents. I also wanted to mention that the developer has taken considerable time to meet with the community, to hold numerous public information sessions, and to really work with our homeowners association specifically to address the concerns that the neighbors on that side of the property have. I don't live on that side of the property, and I won't speak for them, but it does seem that they have been more than willing to take suggestions pertaining to the wall heights and the landscaping, and I certainly hope that's indicative of their willingness to be a good neighbor for the long run. I also wanted to say I'm very enthusiastic about some of the proposed adjustments that were mentioned tonight in terms of the dog gathering area and also potential retail on the corner. So again, wanted to express my enthusiastic support and gratitude for the developers for bringing this really amazing project forward, and I hope that it will have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that was our last speaker.
The developers will have 3 minutes for rebuttal or additional comments before questions.
Thank you. I'll keep this short. Regarding the pedestrian gate on Camino Norte, we're open to the Commission's feedback. It would be important to at least have that be an exit gate for reasons of fire egress to the property. Regarding some of the concerns about the potential number of total occupants in the project, I think we've tried to be clear that the expected occupancy of the project is approximately 80 people, with 12% of the units being couples and everybody else being singles. Sorry. The trip count, as we discussed, should be about half of what is estimated, given the estimate is based on national standards, and the experience of the developer is that they have about half the folks having cars, and that's going to be far less than any other potential use on the site. And we think we've addressed overflow parking in our previous comments. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the time for the Commission to ask questions of the applicants while the public hearing is still open. Are there any questions? Commissioner Song.
Thank you. I had a question and I had a comment. The question is, could you describe why in the low-income senior housing projects, the usage of parking spaces is lower compared to any other type of housing? If you can explain a little bit more of why there are less spaces being used. And second is that I give kudos to the committee and to the applicant for being open to the flexible use of parking spaces. I think that was a great idea. So that was the question and that was the comment. Thank you.
I think I can address that. So we generally see that our residents have fewer cars for one of two reasons. One is what we call acquired disability. Just as people get older, they are less able to drive. And then the other consideration is financial. It costs a lot of money to own and operate and maintain a vehicle. And our residents are low income. They have income, but they are low income. And that's a discretionary expense for a lot of people. And like I said, for that reason, most of our residents, because of those are the two primary reasons why our seniors have fewer cars.
Are there other questions? Commissioner Lewin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the subcommittee that has done incredible work. I really appreciate all the effort that went into this. I wanted to ask the applicants a couple of quick questions. One, are you open to adding a monument sign at Stevens? Because I think the building is beautiful and I think it deserves that kind of prestige. And I think the residents will enjoy that. Being able to say, I live at the Agave, you know. And the other question is really about the access to Camino Norte. You know, Camino Norte is a public road, and that means it's available for all people to drive on and to walk on. And so, and I think the subcommittee has done a terrific job of identifying ways to handle the community's concerns. But from your own perspective as the owners and the future operators, do you really want to have people to be able to drive using either driveway for convenience as well as safety? Or is it just fine to limit the majority of traffic other than emergency to Stevens Road?
I think it's safe to say that we are fine answering your second question with limiting access to Stevens Road. We feel like this will provide enough convenience and access and not overburden Stevens Road and be sufficient for our residents. And then for a monument sign, we would certainly be open. We have not discussed signage yet. One idea that did come up, I think from a neighborhood resident was... Pardon
me, I'm having a very hard time hearing you. Could you...
I'm sorry, I think I'm too far from my microphone. Did you hear that I said that we are okay with the access just coming from Stevens and that we feel that is sufficient? Okay. Monument sign, we would certainly be open to that. One thing that we did hear from the community, from the old Las Palmas neighborhood, is that they would like to see something like a monument sign sort of announcing the gateway to that neighborhood. And we're certainly open to that or to both.
All right, then two more follow-ups.
Signage improvements.
Oh, okay, thank you. I had a little hard time hearing you, but I think you said there's a cost issue involved with that, which I fully understand, and maybe that's something the city will address after the building gets built. Madam Chair, those are my questions. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
Commissioner Maruzzi, you had questions?
Regarding the pedestrian access from Camino Norte, what was the original design intent to make it two-way?
The original design intent regarding the traffic was to make it two-way, but
not the traffic, the pedestrian
access. Just that, well, to make it let people come out, right? If there was a fire or somebody wanted to go for a walk, they could do that. And to make it two-way is if someone wanted to go for a walk in the neighborhood, then they could come back in through that gate.
So do you think it would be negative for your intent or the project if it was only one way for emergency exit?
I think it would be better if it was two-way because I think it's fair to everybody to use the streets to, walk around on. I walk on the streets with my dad, for instance. So I think that would be preferable.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hirschbein, did you have questions?
Well, I didn't have a question, but I just follow up on Commissioner Marucci. People need to get in and out of on the Camino Norte of that project. And if there's some really legitimate concern about people parking on that street and coming in, maybe the gate could have a key that's compatible with the keys that the residents use to get into the building or into their unit. That might solve it. But clearly there needs to be residents walking in and out of that area.
I have a question for you. And Commissioner Hirschbein asked my question about the keys, and I saw a nod yes. The other question I have is, one of the amenities is the 55-year restriction to affordable units. What's the percentage restrictions that we should include in that condition? Are you doing tax credits, and are all of the units at 60% AMI? What are they at, so that if we do the 55-year restriction, we actually mirror what you're being required to limit the units to?
So all of the units are lower-income housing tax credit units. We have 25 units at 80%, 12 at 60%, and 32 at 30% or lower.
Let me just repeat that. 25 at 80, 12 at 60, and 32 at 30%? Okay. Thank you. Are there being no other questions, the public hearing is closed. I will come back to you as we craft a motion just to make sure you're in agreement with where we get. The matter is before the commission. I would like I know there'll be comments. I'd like to make a motion in support of the project. I'll list conditions, but people can speak to it. I'm making that because of being on the committee. I want to make sure that we hit the items that we dealt with in the committee. Michael, is that a second?
Yeah, I'll second it. I don't have any additional comments. I would be willing to approve it per the staff report.
I would add to the staff report, and I've talked with staff, and David can probably give us the additional conditions. We wanted to include the puppy pit stop as one of the project amenities. In terms of the 55-year affordability restrictions, those would be 25 units at 80% AMI, 12 units at 60% AMI, and 32 units at 30% AMI. Then David, you've written some conditions on the commercial space. You'd require the uses be compatible with, and help me on that.
Certainly. So regarding the flexible use space at the street corner, I think our recommendation would be that if it's financially viable, the developer is encouraged to provide a commercial space at the corner of Stevens Road and Palm Canyon Drive, consistent with the uses permitted in the C1 zone.
So basically the C1 zone would allow you to do the communal kitchen or some retail use, dependent on public financing, but you could go forward with C1 zone with what you have right now with your financing. Does that work for you? Okay, and you've added the modification of the public benefit, the affordability requirements, and then you had language for the parking.
Yes, so.
David?
Correct. What we suggest is that the 12 parking spaces adjacent to the southerly building wing on the south side of the parking lot may be used for outdoor usable space by residents if it can be demonstrated by the developer that these spaces are not required, or I should say are not used, and on-site parking is not dispersed onto adjacent streets as determined by the Director of Planning.
Again, is that acceptable to you, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have language for the puppy pit stop? I'm not sure we're calling it puppy pit stop, but.
Yeah, so our condition that we've crafted is that the developer shall dedicate an easement allowing public access to the front paseo for a dog park or similar amenity.
And in terms of the pedestrian gate, I would allow an in and out access and ask that the developer work with a key system for the residents so that it's a pedestrian gate for resident use, but not for service vendors. And I think that covers. David, was there anything else that we needed to cover?
I think we've covered it all.
Commissioner Hirschbein, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes.
Any discussion on this from the commission? Commissioner Lewin? Oh, a monument sign. You wanted to require a monument sign?
I don't want to hold up this project over a monument sign. So I think you've done a terrific job, both of you. I'll support your motion.
And the other would be a recommendation for the developer to consider in the future an upgrade of the bus stop in the front of the building. I don't know that we want to require it at this time, but we'd like to ask you to consider it. Commissioner Maruzzi.
Yeah, I fully agree that the residents should have in and out access to Camino Norte. Just to address one of the residents' concerns about, the nature of the property, the project. This organization's never apparently had experienced problems with their other affordable housing communities. And I feel very confident that this will be an excellent community where it'll be a good neighbor for everyone. I'm very happy that this location was located. This was found on Palm Canyon Drive with a bus stop. It couldn't be better as far as I'm concerned. The architectural design is excellent, spectacular, and very exciting for our city. So I fully support it as proposed.
Commissioner Song, any comments?
No, I agree. I mean, I do have a comment. If I can encourage the team to have more shade trees along Palm Canyon so people who are enjoying your wonderful Escalade of stairs could also enjoy the shade. But yes, I mean.
And is that acceptable to you as well? Matt?
I think that, yes, absolutely. We'll need to coordinate that with engineering, because I think our trellis, we'll have to coordinate the trellis and the lot line and the street. So yes, but absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to say it's a terrific project. I am confident from my years in working in affordable housing and with supportive housing projects that you will not have a traffic problem with this project. I think it's beautiful. I commend you on the service plan, which really wasn't in our purview to discuss, but I wish you the best, and I'll be thrilled to vote for this. If you would call the roll.
Chair Wilmock,
Yes?
Commissioner Hirschbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewin,
Yes.
Commissioner Song, and Vice Chairman Woodsey.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Good luck tomorrow at the council.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have no unfinished business and no new business. Do we have any planning commissioner reports or comments? Commissioner Maruzzi.
Yeah, do we have any idea when the council may get around to filling the positions or et cetera for the planning commission? I guess it's a staff question.
Yes, Vice Chair Maruzzi. Unfortunately, we don't have any specific information yet in terms of when City Council will fill those appointments. I know that they have put together the list of applicants. They've reviewed them by the subcommittee, but we haven't received a date yet of when those interviews will occur.
Okay, and then the perpetual question. Do I even need to say it?
Infusion.
No, the one next to Rick's. Is it moving?
The Tova Hotel project, Mr. Maruzzi, I believe, is the one that you're questioning. Mr. Priest, do you have any information? I believe that there has been code enforcement action that has gone forward. You might know more about that than I do.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Action has gone forward on Tova. Unfortunately, I can't give you any specifics as to where the case has gone as of this minute, but action has been filed, as I understand.
Yeah, we heard that last time, so I'm just hoping that something is going to actually occur, and there was a timeline. I'd like to know when this is hopefully going to happen, because obviously it's the same issue we've been dealing with for years.
I'll make a note of it, and I'll bring that back at the next meeting.
I know this isn't in action, but where does the Orchid Tree stand? Are they coming up against timelines? And Serena Park?
The Orchid Tree project is required to submit construction documents here within the next month or two. So at this time, no, there hasn't really been any new updates. We've worked with the developer on some questions related to that, but we're not certain that they will meet that next timeline, given the implications that we've been hearing about COVID. And as far as
Serena Park?
As far as Serena Park, the developer corresponded with us in November that the builder that they were working with has lost interest, and so they're trying to work with a new builder to get the project back online. But it is delayed, and so we don't have a timeline for that project at this point.
And we don't have any approvals for the houses, right? We approved the PD without specifics.
Correct. The final development plan for the homes is required to come back to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Great. Any other questions for staff? Planning Director's report.
I believe Commissioner Song has a question or comment.
Oh, Commissioner Song.
Thank you. When it comes to parking requirements according to the zoning code, the requirements are based on the type of housing, so multi-family housing, single-family housing. But I do believe that when it comes to senior housing, there is data, and I hope that Agave will be one of the Palm Springs City project data, in which it actually shows that even designing it to the minimum requirements of the zoning code is more than sufficient for low-income senior housing. And I'm wondering, is there any way that we can start collecting data so that we can perhaps have a consideration. Because as you all know, if we have less parking then we have more open space opportunities. So that's sort of a comment and a way of raising the question, could we do a special consideration for senior housing projects?
Madam Chair, if I might respond to that question. The point that Commissioner Song makes is a good one, is that typically most zoning codes will have a separate parking requirement for senior housing, as the parking need for senior housing projects is typically less than what you would see for other multifamily projects. What we might be able to do, we do have our annual update to the zoning code coming up. As part of that effort, we might include the addition of a senior parking requirement based on standards that we see here locally in Southern California.
To follow up on that with the director, affordable housing should fit into that category as well as senior and especially special needs housing. The experience I had both as a developer of affordable housing in Santa Monica was a much reduced need, and that was my experience as a lender as well. Any other comments? The planning director's report then?
I have nothing. Mr. Newell, do you have anything for the Planning Commission? And Mr. Newell does not have anything either, so that concludes our meeting, Madam Chair.
Could you tell us which projects we've looked at that are coming before City Council?
Tomorrow evening, we have 2 items on the City Council agenda. We have the former Virgin Hotel site, which is the multifamily residential building with 45 units. And then you also have the Agave project on the agenda for City Council tomorrow evening. So those are the 2 items on the agenda.
Thank you. This meeting will be adjourned until Wednesday, January 27th at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.